2022 Nissan Pathfinder. This is the 5th generation. It's based off the last generation, but it's been remolded, reworked. It got rid of the CVT. We now have a true 9-speed automatic transmission. And we're gonna see if this new generation is good enough to kind of claw back at the sales that it lost the last few years. But we got kids to pick up, so let's back out of the driveway. And just like the Rogue I reviewed a couple months ago, the screen and the 360 camera has been reworked. It's improved in every single way, so I enjoy that. Speaking, this is a 9-inch screen. It's the optional screen. I'm in the Platinum grade. This is the top of the line Nissan Pathfinder. This thing is loaded to the gills. It got heated and ventilated seats. The heated seats work pretty good. The ventilated seats make a lot of noise, and you just get a little bit of air on your butt, and they're not the best ventilated seats, but anyways, you have them if you really can deal with that noise. Now, this Platinum has semi-aniline leather, which is really, really high quality. It's very soft, very comfortable. The seats, by the way, are really wide. I feel like they're double XL. You have a lot of space in here, and even the dormants on the door are very soft, leather-like. I mean, the trim in here is really, really good. And the overall usability, the practicality with the climate control, has the knobs. I love the knobs on the new Nissans with the volume and the tuning knobs. They've absolutely nailed it when it comes to functionality and ergonomics here. We have the new logo on the steering wheel. We also have the new logo on the outside. So on the front and the rear, you have the new Nissan logos. Now with those Nissan logos, I feel like that's a good segue into the overall design. You have a lot of hard edges on this Pathfinder. Definitely looks modern. I really like the new headlights. Unfortunately, even in this top of the line trim, you still have like regular halogen bulbs for the blinkers, so that was kind of a disappointment. But the lights look good regardless. The V-Motion grille looks great. There are some design cues from the early generation Pathfinders in the front end as well. Interestingly enough, when you get on the side, yes, you have the 20-inch wheels. They look adequate for the size of this vehicle. Maybe a little bit small, to be honest, but they still look up to speed though for a Pathfinder. You have Pathfinder written so many places in this vehicle. So you have it on each of the rear doors, kind of emblazoned into the chrome running strips there. You also have it on like font size 900 on the rear lift gate. Like, I've never seen a vehicle with its name stamped as big as the Pathfinder, and my wife noticed it before me. She's like, that's just huge. I'm like, I guess it's a big name and it's a bigger vehicle. So yeah, anyways, no one's gonna think it's anything else unless they're illiterate if they see the vehicle from behind. Speaking of Pathfinder, you also have illuminated door sills on each of the 4 doors that this has as an option. And when we go around to the back of the vehicle, yes, I talked about the huge font. I wish the exhaust was a little bit more ornate. It's just kind of sticking out back there. So it is what it is. But other than the obnoxious Pathfinder all over the vehicle, I think it's a really, really good looking SUV with the hard lines. It definitely got rid of the soft swoopiness of the old generation, and it's ready to take on the 2020s. Now, some other things I really, really appreciate about this interior: the heads-up display, which is available on this Platinum trim, is arguably the best heads-up display I've ever tested. It's right up there with, the Nissan Rogues that I tested. It's the same heads-up display. It doesn't give you any of that double vision, hard to focus on sort of hologram. It is crystal clear. It's bright as hell. I adore this heads-up display. It doesn't sync with my Android Auto when I have a destination, so that's really the only downside to it. But it is full color. I think it's around 10-inch heads-up display. Also, the ProPilot Assist pops up there in green. It's a nice little hue. So I appreciate the ProPilot Assist also popping up on the heads-up display. Some other things I love in here: I'm a sucker for pano roofs, and it took me about 3 or 4 days to figure out how to work the pano roof. I had the window lock on, so my kids can't mess with the windows, but apparently it locks the sunroof as well. So just keep that in mind. Not only does it lock the sunshade, but also the retracting roof up top. But it looks great. It adds a lot of room in here. Another thing that I love for the kids, even if I have a car seat, well, it's got to be a front-facing car seat, but you press the button and it's like a spaceship ejector seat. It pops forward, moves forward, and it's so much easier to get the kids in the back instead of snaking them through the middle. Speaking of which, this generation, this 5th generation, is the first Nissan Pathfinder to have 8 rows or 8 seat standard in this 3-row crossover. Now this one has the captain's chairs, and there's a console in between them, which is removable. I could remove it right now from here if I wanted to, but I'm not. So that's a huge feature. And there is some cargo space in the back. Even if you have the 3 rows up, it's still pretty usable, and you have some underfloor storage as well. But one of the biggest improvements is not the styling, it's not the interior reworkings, it's this 9-speed automatic. So I'm just gonna hammer down. A little bit of a delay, but you're off to the races. There's 70 miles an hour with this about 285 horsepower and about 260 pound-feet of torque. So it is a great improvement. Anytime a CVT is in a vehicle that's capable of off-road and capable of towing, it just doesn't sit right with me. Speaking of which, this can tow 6,000 pounds. This has the optional hitch on it as well. So you can tow with this 9-speed, no problem. It gives you great reassurance. Fuel economy though, speaking of which, it's not good. I've been driving mostly in the city. I haven't been driving like that. I've been driving pretty conservatively, and I've been getting, let me back out of here because the stop start is on, a little over 16 miles per gallon. That's horrendous. Hopefully Nissan, you can bring a hybrid to this Pathfinder. Some sort of e-power would be great. It would have no competition in this 3-row crossover market. I mean, yes, it would kind of compete with the Toyota Highlander Pathfinder. I always mix up those names. But anyways, it compete with a Highlander hybrid. And yes, it's just unfortunate we don't have a hybrid option in here. But hey, 9-speed automatic replacing the CVT is a win in my books. We're gonna twist it into sport mode as we get ready to launch here. Oh, takeoff from the start is strong. There's 55. And yeah, I'm going to turn it back into normal mode, auto mode, whatever you want to call it. It's not the most responsive if you want to just hammer down while you're already up to speed. But from a stop, it is very, very strong, very aggressive. And this thing is quick for a big SUV, even though, you know, it's not going to have class leading horsepower, but it's competitive. And now that we have that 9-speed automatic, it's competitive as well. Now, speaking of handling, it's actually pretty agile. But we're gonna go over some speed bumps in a little bit as this dog's taking up. Anyways, we're gonna go over the speed bumps when I get into my daughter's school parking lot. And that's where I feel like the ride quality could definitely improve, not only over speed bumps, but you just feel a little bit in here compared to, let's say, the Subaru Ascent that I was in last week. That's like the freshest 3-row crossover I've been in, so I'm gonna compare it to that. It's not quite as agile as that vehicle, and it feels undersprung. So I'm gonna go over this speed bump at like, I don't know, 5 miles an hour. The front is fine, but the back feels like it bottoms out going over it at like 3 miles an hour. Feels like it just completely squats down like the dog we saw pooping a second ago. I can't believe that analogy just came up. But that's what it feels like when I go over the rear. It just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like it's settled right for such a large vehicle. But that's the only kind of ride complaint that I have, is that when you're going over imperfect or even speed bumps, it just doesn't feel right. It feels like that rear end's been beat up. And maybe it has been. I haven't mentioned this already, but I'm in a pre-production model. So there are some things about this vehicle that might not be like finalized yet, and that's fine. I just don't know what those, like, if the ventilated seats are improved in the production model, that's wonderful. If that rear suspension is sorted out for the production model, that's wonderful. I just don't know at this point in time. So when we put it in park, we have a digital shifter here, and it's just like, or it reminds me a lot of the Rogues. I don't know if it's just like it, but it reminds me of the Rogues, and it's shift by wire, so you're not really moving it around. But I had a weird instance where I put it in reverse or drive, and I couldn't put it back into park. And the reason is is that there's not wireless Android Auto in here, there's wireless CarPlay. So I have my phone plugged in at all times. What happened is that my USB cord got stuck on the shifter and it kept it in drive. I couldn't turn the car on, like I couldn't put it in park. So just keep in mind, if you have cords in here, to get your cord out of the way, because it will get in the way of your digital shifter from going into the right parking or drive mode. So a couple small things that make me very happy in this Pathfinder is kind of like the resistance of the blinkers. They have a really good resistance and a satisfying click to it. Same thing with the windshield wipers, okay? So that's the first thing that I enjoy, the resistance, the clicky nature of. The other thing is the vents they might be the best vents I've ever tested. Not only is the airflow good, but the consistency and just the smooth resistance that you get in them, not only going side to side, but up and down, they feel like the highest quality. They don't look that quality. The ones on the edge look nice with the aluminum trim around it, but every single vent in here is just, well, let's test the ones in the back, which, by the way, the ones in the back are on the roof and they feel really good as well. Oh my gosh, how satisfying. The ones back there are a little bit lighter in terms of resistance, but just call me a sucker for nicely resisted vents. I don't know what else to call them. They feel good in the hands, and they also keep you cool or hot, which, by the way, I always have AC on. That's not going to help the fuel economy. Speaking of which, the stop-start system in here is not good. It's off right now by default because the car's trying to cool itself off, so it says AC priority. But when the engine shuts off or turns back on, it's extraordinarily abrupt, especially when it turns back on. Sometimes it just kicks back on before you're ready to move because the AC needs to be worked, and it shakes the entire vehicle, and it's very startling. So just press the auto off button right here when you get in the vehicle every single time, because it's not a very smooth experience. Now, speaking of smooth, this is a pre-production model. There's a tiny bit of, like, I don't know, rough idle. It kind of you can feel the vibration in the vehicle, and that shouldn't be happening in a smooth V6. So I'm sure Nissan will, I hope Nissan gets that settled with the production models where you don't feel a little bit of a rough idle even when the engine's up to temperature. All right, we need to go pick up my daughter. So final thoughts on the 2022 5th generation Nissan Pathfinder. Well, it feels... We'll play some video games when we get home, okay? So final thoughts on this platinum 5th generation Nissan Pathfinder. Coming in at around $50,000. That's almost luxury money we're talking about here. But in terms of technology, Nissan's done it. I mean, heads-up display is great. The 12-inch MID is really, really good. It's not the most customizable, but it's still good. This 9-inch screen might be small for today's standards, but I love it. It's one of my favorite screens out there. I mean, they've thrown the kitchen sink at this. They've given it more usability in the second and third row, more space for the occupants, and you have 8 seats in a Pathfinder as an option for the first time ever. They replaced the CVT with a 9-speed ZF transmission and allows this V6 to be happy once again. So yeah, Nissan, you've done what you needed to do with this Nissan Pathfinder. I would love a hybrid option, but despite that, it's still going to be very competitive. And with how this vehicle is, I definitely see Nissan climbing back to 60, 70,000 units sold per year if they're able to have the right supply due to crisis that's going on with production supply and things like that. So, oh, and one last thing. The brakes in here are really, really good. I talked about the engine, I talked about the handling a little bit and the ride quality, but I'm gonna get on the brakes hard and very smooth, very linear, and most importantly, very predictive. And that's what you want in a family vehicle. You want your brakes to be almost telepathic, okay? They need to be able to read the driver and the driver's inputs, and these brakes are really, really, really good. So nice job, Nissan. I'm going to end it there. I really enjoyed this Nissan Pathfinder. I could easily see my family using it as our daily driver. I just wish it got better gas mileage, but I really can't find anything else to fault this vehicle over, to be honest. I enjoy everything about it besides the fuel economy, and I can't believe I'm saying that. So I don't know what else to say. I'll see you guys in the comments about the Nissan Pathfinder, this 2022 all-new generation. Can't wait to see what you have to say about it. Subscribe for more Nissan news and reviews like this one. I'll catch you in the next video. And as always, peace out.